All right, what's up, everybody? It's a great day. Today, we're going to do a special show with Waters Above, first time guest. So, big fan of out there. And so, we're going to get started. It's going to be great. So, stay tuned to the end and check it all out. Here we go. Yeah, so welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and do have Waters Above on today. This is going to be a special show where we're going to really go deep into getting to know him a little bit better, where he comes from, and everything that he's doing and how he got to where he's at right now. So, welcome Waters Above. How you doing?
I'm doing better every day. I really am grateful and I appreciate you inviting me on. Looking forward to connecting, and I hope you and your audience are doing amazing today.
Thank you, thank you. It's cool because I had Matt on a couple days ago with Be Love and Be You. He's the lead singer of a band, and he does some really great stuff online. And so he spoke highly of you, and then people in my audience started talking about you. And I thought, I'm a person of initiative, so I just reached out to you, and thanks a lot for helping to put this together. So, why don't we just start with going back to like what your story is, and for a new fan, consider me a new fan, or consider anyone who sees this a new fan. Like how did you get to where you are, and what's your actual story?
Well, first off, shout out to Matt. Like I really that really means a lot to me. Somebody in my community sent me the clip from the podcast you guys did a couple days ago, and it really like hit me because I don't really ever hear the statement that I'm somebody's favorite technical analyst. And I typically don't even consider myself to be that. A lot of the time, what I get into is mindset, health, wellness, a lot of stuff about just consciousness. And it's just really cool when somebody comes around and says that they appreciate the crypto TA stuff that I do, even though a lot of the content on my channel is obviously technical analysis, but that's only a sliver of what I like to get into because I feel that you can't even become an investor until you have a lot of other things in life sorted out, right? It's like you can't become wealthy until you have a mindset to become wealthy. It has really little to do with, the things that you invest in because it's all of investing deals with time horizons, the stomach to be an investor, being able to take losses and recoup and know how to respond instead of react, all of that stuff. So I love to talk about mindset and yeah, so shout out to Matt. Like that really was dope to see somebody say that in an interview. So really I'm humbled by that. I'm really grateful. But regarding the story, another thing I want to say before we dive deeper is I actually know about your channel, and it's because you had a viral video like I don't even know, man, maybe 10 years ago on intermittent fasting, right?
Yeah,
So
I
I
did.
actually when I looked you up, I was like, "Oh my, I've seen this guy before. He was talking about intermittent fasting, and that's a big part of my work too, talking about fasting. Not necessarily just IF, but getting into dry fasting and long-term fasts and all of the esoteric side to it that's maybe not as talked about in the fitness industry, because typically they don't really get into the more conscious side of the whole process of fasting. They do it mostly for body composition, for reduction in adiposity, perhaps HGH increase, all those benefits, which I know you are clearly well aware of. So just pretty cool that this synchronized. And it was why I immediately accepted the interview and was like, let's go,
You're like, I
because
remember this guy.
yeah, no, I remember that. I remember that. And I mean, clearly you're doing something right because wow, the body composition you're in and how your energy is when you're talking and just your vibe. It's so youthful and so inspiring. And I think that's something the world needs to see, a lot. There is too much like flex culture in the health and wellness community, and too many people, I think, trying to get lean for all the wrong reasons. And it's really cool for somebody to just like come at it from a more chill and yeah, you just have a good energy, man. So I'm glad we connected, and I immediately wanted to connect with you because of that. I know that a
Thank
lot
you.
of the time it's not just accepting interviews and then seeing where things go. It has a lot to do with our energies and how, you know, we we organize our thoughts and all of that stuff together as one. But I mean, regarding my story, it's pretty simple actually. I got into investing maybe like 5 years ago out of learning about the Federal Reserve System. And I studied the Federal Reserve System very, very heavily to a place where I almost had like a scarcity mindset of like thinking that my money is going to shit, like my value on the dollar was never going to work in my favor until I became more sophisticated with how I utilize those dollars. And it led me to studying cryptocurrency, obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, these sorts of things start to come up. But I was always a conscious being. I was always kind of into the esoteric and studying the occult and all of the subject matter that goes around that. So when I made it to investing, I had a very different approach at how I looked at money, how I looked at the charts regarding the technical analysis. And I effectively, I mean, I don't want to take credit necessarily, but just for the lack of better words, I designed my own system of how I could interpret the markets in a way that makes sense to me. And then everything that I do was kind of birthed through that combination of the esoteric side of things, which is something that a lot of people have probably heard of as astrology, perhaps numerology, people have heard of. But then I added an additional element called gematria, which is an alphanumerical cipher system of taking letters and applying a number to them. And the easiest way to explain this would be the basic English cipher is A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and Z would be 26, right? So you just take all of your letters, you number them out, A through Z, and then when you take words and you start to calculate what all of those things add up to, you see a relationship between words to each other, and it's a really really incredible system that not too many people are talking about, but perhaps since the last 4 years or so, more people have become hip to it. But obviously, everyone knows about astrology, everyone knows about numerology by now. And I've been trying my best to deliver this information in a way that's user friendly, that's not too complex. And ultimately, if you don't believe in the esoteric side of things, I could at least show you the TA, the charts, the technical analysis. So if you don't care about what the moon cycles are doing or Mercury retrograde or eclipses, if you have no energy for that, I could at least have you covered in the stuff that anybody who crosses paths with something going on with crypto or forex or the stock market can digest that. So I was very methodical coming into this. I wanted something that wasn't going to scare everyone away, but I never held back my truth in the process. So of course there are times where I ruffle some feathers. I get people to, kind of think about things they've never thought about before, and all of that's led to this moment here. So I've been doing the channel now for about 3.5 years or so. Again, that's why I'm super grateful to connect with people like you who've been doing this for like a decade almost, right? Like it's just amazing to see people who've stuck through it and they keep making the content, because over the years of doing what I'm doing, there's been a lot of rough patches. There's been a lot of stuff where it's like, should I keep doing this? Should I change? Should I adjust? And yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of times where because I'm in investing, it could be very acidic, like a very, very high strung, people getting very emotional, people getting very scared, people getting very aggressive. And the biggest part to my whole story has been how to calmly navigate this whole thing. And that's where I'll wrap that up. Like one of the things that I think people appreciate about my channel is whether the market is in the process of crashing or if it's pumping, you'll come to my channel and you'll see that I maintain my composure. I don't become a moon boy and start getting ultra excited when the market's going up. If anything, I change my tone and I go the opposite direction. And when the market's in chaos and crashing and in the red, I'm still equally as calm. And I try to remind people of the opportunity that's presenting itself. So it's probably the best way to describe what's going on over at my channel.
So it sounds like you're taking a lot of the esoteric approach with not just astrology, but also this new thing called gematria, which you explained pretty well, which is like numbers. One would be number A would be 1, Z would be 26. Sounds
Correct.
like, and then they're all layered out, and then for people who don't understand that, you just do the regular technical analysis. And so, and you've been on YouTube for about 3 years now, 3.5 years. So was there like, before YouTube, were you into health and well? I mean, you talked about fasting, you talked about, dry fasting, intermittent fasting. Were you like into the health and wellness before all this, or were you into finance before this? I mean, where did
Mhm.
you come from?
Yeah, so immediately before I did the investing thing, I was doing e-commerce, drop shipping, and that came to a screeching halt because of C-19. So anyone who knows about that business model knows it heavily relies on China, and that got shut down and it created logistical chaos. So I had to effectively four profitable, like about 3 to 4 profitable stores that I had running completely ended. Like I had to wrap up the whole operation. And it put me into this mode where I needed to get into making money some alternative way. And because I wasn't going to wear a mask and I wasn't going to take the jab, that like I was in this position where I needed to figure something out, nobody was helping me. So that was kind of what spawned all of that. But I was doing drop shipping for maybe like 2 years before that. And then for a majority of the time before that, I had a lot of experience as a traveling trainer, basically helping people learn the systems to quickly yeah, to expedite the process of learning, which sounds crazy, but it's a whole skill set of being able to take almost anything that you need to learn and how do we systemize it to expedite that process from you going from a complete beginner to a more advanced, and to make you as self-reliant as possible and prevent bad habits and all of that. So I had a lot of time with behavioral psychology, like with psychological stuff and seeing what type of people are learning from more hands-on or more uh visual or more just they're good listeners or the people that like suck at reading like myself. I hate to read, believe it or not. I don't read books at all. I
Oh,
have no
you don't
desire to
read?
read. I don't read at all.
Wow.
So I had to learn how to teach myself things in a different way. It's not that I can't read. I Of course I'm a speed reader. Actually, I skip through a lot of the words so I could read paragraphs significantly faster than the average person and I could pick up a lot of the data. And that's a gift that I have, I suppose. But I don't enjoy reading as like a thing that people do um, for entertainment. Like some people actually just enjoy really reading. I don't. Um, so I had to like I spent a lot of time there, but I've always just been curious of how to master parts of myself. So the health and wellness thing came a lot from just the desire for self mastery. I think anyone who's not like gifted with being lean naturally, you give up a lot of the time or you think you got to take steroids or you think you got to do some crazy thing to achieve a really incredible physique. But a lot of the time it's just discipline, right? It's just discipline and you learn tricks and tips along the way as you're well aware. So the health and wellness thing came from that desire of self-mastery. Like, how do I master my own discipline with the way I choose to eat and the way I choose to train? And then the fasting and all of that came as a byproduct of that passion, right? So I started getting really deep into even timing the foods, something I heard of called chronobiotic nutrition. It's a really fascinating way of looking at consumption because you would avoid eating certain foods during certain times. And that really resonated with me because that borrows a lot of the belief and well, the whole belief I could call it from the midnight noon law, which is practiced in China. Not today, but it used to be. And this way of approaching how we time foods, that was always really fascinating to me. So, yeah, I mean, I've always been really into the details. So it was obvious when I got to crypto and the charts and all of that stuff, it was easy for me to pick up because if when you're in health and when you're in this maybe bodybuilding thing, you start counting calories and macros and you start getting into the nitty-gritty of like your consumption regimen, maybe the meal timing, exercise timing, all of that. So I had so much experience with all that stuff and it kind of all carries over.
Sounds like it. So it all carried. Now that's kind of like sets you up for where you are now with the crypto stuff. But back to the so before we go to the crypto, more about your your health and wellness journey. So, did you or are you practicing certain types of fasting? You mentioned dry fasting. Have you gone on dry fasting, retreats, or actually done that before?
No,
Or
I've
I,
never done any retreats, but I think like I used to look down on that kind of stuff a little bit more judgmentally, and now I'm open to it because I've become a successful entrepreneur, and now my life is way different than it used to be when I just had a normal job. Like now I'm in a very serious position where I've realized like I have a responsibility to be a leader, right? I've chosen that path. And sometimes it's nice to have somebody who is way more passionate about something by your side, working with you on something as a mentor. It would be no different if if your body composition and like your health journey is the thing you're the most passionate about, but perhaps you're lacking in finance, right? It would be great to have a financial mentor, right? It's all hand in hand. So I would never stray people away from the fasting retreats, although I myself have never done them. It's perhaps a good starting point for a lot of people that are about to hear what I'm about to say. So I got into fasting through doing intermittent fasting, and it kind of just took its way until I did my first 24-hour water fast. And one of the things I noticed about doing water fasts was I always had a horrible headache, like usually a caffeine headache, and that's because of drinking coffee, right? And I started to realize that when you do a water fast, you're basically pissing away all your electrolytes. So there's a better way to do it, right? There's a much more effective way to do it. And I was already lean at the time, so it wasn't like I was just super fat and had a lot of toxicity in my body or anything. It was just because, well, when you're consuming a ton of water, you're basically, and only water, by the way, you're basically just leaking out all your electrolytes. So I started to get a little bit more savvy with the preparation for my fasts, and I was able to figure out how to do like 2 to 3 day water fasts without so many caffeine headache issues, or just not as many issues, which everyone comes across when they get into fasting. Some people even experience it with like when they do OMAD, right? Like a one meal a
yeah,
day
one meal a day.
regimen. Some people can't handle that, and they just, their relationship with food is very off, and that could already create some issues with stress and anxiety, and so I worked through a lot of the mental barriers. I got a sophisticated system set up where I could do multi-day water fasts, and I felt pretty awesome on them, but I never felt as great as I was hearing some other people were feeling. Some people spoke about these 3-day water fasts like it was the best thing ever, and I just wasn't having that experience. And then that led me to dry fasting, and
Okay,
that
nice. I like
completely
where you're,
changed the
yeah,
game.
dry fasting. So people who don't know, first of all, dry fasting sounds completely nuts. So just so but go ahead. What is dry fasting?
So dry fasting is abstaining from eating all foods like a normal fast, and also all liquids. So you don't consume anything. And some people are very hardcore about it, where they won't take a shower, they won't wash their hands, they won't touch water at all during that dry fast. I'm not a proponent for like being extreme about anything. I actually believe that extremism is easy and moderation is difficult. But that's a separate conversation. But needless to say, I got into my first dry fast, 24 hours, no water, no food, and I woke up feeling incredible. I felt amazing. And then by then I was already getting a lot into eating like mono fruit meals, which is another more advanced technique to rehydrate the body interstitially. So hydration works in, not well, let's just say that the way you've been, and I'm not speaking to you, of course, or anybody in your community directly. I'm just speaking generally. The way that we've been taught about hydration is a lie. A lot of us are being told just drink pure water, drink a gallon a day in some instances, and that's nonsense. You're just peeing away all your electrolytes. So what you need is to have minerals in that liquid organically, right? And I don't, do you want me to get into this?
Please,
Or
yeah, this is
okay.
fascinating.
It could be educational. So we have two types of minerals. If I want to be just like super simplified, or I don't want to go crazy here, we have inorganic minerals, which would be rocks, dust, sand, the multivitamin pill that you have in the cabinet. That is crushed up powder. When you have fortified foods, which the US is known for, when it's listing all of these vitamins and minerals that are within, well, mostly minerals that are within this box of cereal or whatever it is that they're saying is fortified, it's effectively chalk. It's crushed up rocks. Okay. The human body can't do anything with this. It doesn't actually have a system really to adequately remove it. And this is a problem. Your body tries really hard to remove it, but it can't do it easily. And when you do this all day, meaning you're eating a lot of processed foods and you're drinking a lot of tap water, even a lot of mineral water would even make it worse, actually, because you're drinking all these inorganic minerals. So the kidneys are taking a hit. The kidneys are burdened down by this, and the kidneys are directly associated with dealing with your lymphatic system. And in typical medical, teachings, they always want to talk about blood, but they never want to talk about lymph. And lymph is crucial here. And anyone who gets into fasting in any capacity, whether that's intermittent fasting or as deep as dry fasting, you know the beneficial effects it has on your kidneys and your lymphatic system. So, what we want is organic minerals, and that would be found within a cucumber or a watermelon or an orange. And this is when the mineral is within these pockets of the liquid, which makes Mother Nature perfect. Mother Nature is effectively perfect. And I know people want to say, well, oh, we could drink from a well or we could drink from a waterfall, but we never needed to do that actually because the food was always giving us the nutrition. It was up until they started taking us out of nature, putting us into cities and taking us from the places that have the food is when we started to have these issues and started to rely on water. So I'm not going to get into the debate that water is bad for you. That's not my point here because water serves its purpose. But just
Hmm.
be more
Wow.
cautious about how you promote it and how positive you think it is for the body, because it might not be the case for you. In most cases, it's not the case. What I would recommend if people want to be adequately hydrated, or what I call effectively hydrated, is eat more fruit. Just eat more fruit. A watermelon, if you were to compare drinking 1 glass of water, like what would we call that, 8 ounces of water, to 1 slice of watermelon, you will see the retention of the liquid in the cells probably tenfold in a single slice of watermelon compared to the amount of clear water you would need to drink. And this is proven in scientism. It's proven in all aspects. I mean, just the higher the water content the fruit is, the more it will retain in the body, and that will actually hydrate you. So a lot of people are having issues with brittle nails, with dry skin, with the hair turning gray a little bit younger than it should, issues with eyesight. I mean, there's so many of these problems. Cracks on the nails, also cracks on the sides of the mouth, on the sides of the lips, chapped lips. You could keep going. And this is all dehydration. The world right now is chronically dehydrated, and they want to talk to you about like all this stuff that was going on with C-19, but like the real pandemic the real pandemic is actually hydration. So I learned about this maybe 10, 12 years ago, completely changed my life. And then I started getting into dry fasting because getting back to the kidneys and the lymphatic system, it all made sense to me. When you're doing a water fast, your kidneys are still working. So you're giving everything else a break, but you're putting your kidneys into like overhaul mode. So
Hmm.
think about it like this. Imagine you had a building, right? With 100 employees, and you told every employee to go home except for one, but then that one employee had to do the workload of everyone else. That's not exactly how it's going, but that's kind of the situation here. And that's why a lot of people, when they're doing these water fasts, they're not healing the way that they could be if they would just do the dry fast. Because the dry fast would be maybe the first time in your entire life since you were like in your mother's womb that you actually had the kidneys got a full break. So giving the kidneys a break, it's amazing. You'll probably use the bathroom after a 24-hour dry fast, and you'll see that your first time urinating when you wake up in the morning will be cloudy. That is literally lymph in it's coming out and filtering through the kidneys for the first time. It's
Huh.
insane. So your body is designed to remove toxicity, the buildup of toxic waste. And that would be your lymphatic system. It is like a garbage disposal, right? So, what I teach is if you have a garbage and you keep throwing garbage in it and you fill the can to the top and now the lid is like falling off. Well, what happens? The next time you put garbage in, it spills over. So what happens when your lymphatic system is blocked up is the waste material or the garbage now spills over. And where do you think it goes? It goes into the bloodstream. That's where you get dis-ease, disease. That's where you get all of these chronic inflammatory issues, and for each individual, it manifests differently. Some people, it might show up as, uh, I mean, you name it. Like I said earlier, it could be dry skin, it could be psoriasis, it could be eczema, it could be something with the cracking of the lips, it could be nosebleeds. Like some people just have really like thin skin. This is because the body's lymphatic system is not effectively filtering properly. It's not, the waste is not getting out of you. And the last thing to say, and this might be shocking to some people, is this is why a lot of the new agey like health modalities of doing these so-called cleanses are really dangerous, because what happens is you're not allowing and the evacuation of this toxicity in the way that your body's designed to get rid of it. So all you're doing is putting in all these herbs, you're doing all this extreme stuff, but the body is not used to removing the waste. So it's like imagine putting dish detergent in a fucking garbage can that's packed full of garbage. What are you doing? You're just pouring soap over garbage in the same vessel and you haven't taken out the garbage yet. We want to take out the garbage, guys. So the dry fast is where we take out the garbage. Then you can do your cleanses. Then you could do all this liver flush and this, that, and the third. But like, yeah, I want people to rethink the way the body works. And I'm not perfect at this, by the way. And maybe a couple of the examples I gave weren't the easiest to digest, but I hope it helped. I hope it gets people
Really
to
did.
open up their mind a little bit about the power of the dry fast. And you don't need
Totally.
to do it so long. You don't need to do it for 6 days, 7 days. You can do it for 48 hours. Try it one time. We can maybe talk later if you want about like a good preparation method for it, cuz I do not want anyone here who's never done even a 24-hour water fast to jump straight into a dry fast. You don't want to do that. You want to have preparation. Intermittent fasting is probably the greatest preparation method of all time, because it gets you in a sequence to feel what it's like to go without 3 meals a day that you're used to, or the 6 meals a day that some people have, or the breakfast that a lot of people eat. You know, getting into IF is a very good, like, what do you call it? Gateway drug, right?
Yeah.
To the deeper fasts.
IF is the gateway to all for sure. So it sounds like you started with IF and now you're all the way to dry fasting. So before people get into the dry fasting, they got to master the intermittent fasting first. And that's definitely uh, not recommended to do dry fasting for anyone. But for someone like myself and yourself, who I've been doing IF for 10 plus years, and I do one meal a day right now consistently for almost a year straight, where I don't eat until after 5. I like to eat at night. So
Hmm.
uh, I'm, without any cheating, I have not had one cheat day where I eat before 5. I've really been good about it. So, but this dry fast, I haven't done it, man. And I had a doctor on my channel once, probably about a year ago, and he advocated for this dry fasting, and he challenged me to it. And I, I just, I couldn't. It was willpower. It was a willpower. I
Yeah.
couldn't get the willpower to do it. I would actually. It's my addiction to coffee is for me.
Yeah, I
It's
got that
coffee.
too. I got that too because I used to be a barista for like hella long, and that was why I had those caffeine headaches. I love coffee. Like
Me too.
it's my drug of choice, and I
Yeah.
have a very good relationship with it now, but I completely understand what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
tough. It's real tough, man. But I promise you, because you're so into coffee, it will help you so much with your adrenals to just try the drive. How about this, bro? I mean, I know we just met, but in like 3 days, I'm gonna be going for a 3 day dry fast. You don't need to do it 3 days, but like if we do it together, if you at least try it with me, you'll have somebody who's done it so many times now. And if you have any questions or anything, but like for real, man, you're already used to going so long without eating in a single day. Like just take the water out, take the coffee out, and take the meal out, and just go for the 24 hours, and you'll be surprised.
Yeah. I'm up for the challenge. I mean, I could get some people. I could get this doctor. He's like been challenging me to do it. He's a freaking amazing.
What's their name?
His name is Doctor Ihor Eihor. He's actually he's not only like a regular white coat type of doctor, but he's also a complete practitioner in Asian medicine, and he was trained in Vietnamese medicine, so he understands the eastern side and the western side,
Yeah, that's
and so
amazing.
the oh amazing, and so he was the one that I was gonna go under his supervision to kind of like guide me, like make sure that it's like a risky procedure. That's why I always, I mean, for people don't do it without proper guidance, because you're not drinking any water, and
Yeah,
so
but I mean, I
right,
don't know if I would like a little bit to say because it's I
yeah,
could
please,
hear it in the tonality of your voice and I could hear it in the way you're looking at it. It's like, okay, like I've seen how lean you've gotten, right? Like you've gotten to what, maybe 8% body fat before?
for sure,
Okay, bro, you know the difference between like 14% and 8 is because you start going primal. You get out of the whole like you get out of the matrix and you
yeah,
become this like superhuman, right? Bro, there's zero fear with dry fasting. Every single animal in nature fasts. Dry fasts, by the way. You rarely see like I'll give an example. A tiger gets into like squabble, it gets its leg bit off, it will literally, even though it can walk, it will go over to a shaded tree, like right under a tree, and it will lay there for days without any food. Obviously, it's not getting water, and it knows that it will heal faster. It's a heal, it just immediately goes into that mode. When anyone observes Mother Nature, with specifically mammals, right? Land mammals, you see all the time these instances of they get into something where they're injured and the response is no eating. But not only just not eating, they do not consume water too. Now, obviously, our digestive system is very different from a tiger. The human digestive system, our intestines can like wrap around a whole tennis court, whilst the lion's is much shorter, right? A carnivore has a much different, that's not my point here, but it's just the response to injury, to feeling off, with humans, we have this quite often when we start to feel sick. When you feel sick, your body goes into a mode where naturally all of these hunger hormones drop, right? Ghrelin, for instance, it just shuts off. You now don't even want to eat. Your like all of your taste kind of deactivates as well. Your ability to get the sensation from food that you normally get, it kind of just dissipates. And your body is trying to get you to not eat. So, anyways, I'm not here
well,
to say that people should just jump straight into the dry fast, but also what I'm trying to say is that it's not something to be afraid of because it's not that crazy. It's
what
really not.
what would you say you're okay? So you did it for one day. You're gonna do it for 3 days coming up. So how many times have you done it? And like, what were the benefits? You said you felt really good, but like, what can you
Mhm.
describe what you got out of it?
So I've only done a 3-day dry fast 2 times, fully 3 days. I've done probably, I mean, 40 2-day dry fasts. I've done, if I wanted to get into like the hour amounts, I've probably done at least 10 60-hour dry fasts. So I've done a lot of multi-day dry fasts. 3 days, the issue that I have is I start to look too lean. Like
What?
I just start to look too fucking lean. Like
So
if you
so
know
you get
anything about,
you
hmm?
get super lean from dry fasting?
Oh my God. I mean, it's like the quickest way to get shredded. If like anyone wants to get shredded really quick,
Well,
if you're
who
already
doesn't?
like, yeah, if
Who
you're
doesn't?
15 to 20% body fat and you do a 3-day dry fast, thank me later. You will look fucking stage ready. I mean, you'll look soft, but like if you just carb up like after, like yeah. But I mean, it's a little bit egoic, but I'm trying to let people know that like it's a
Motivation though for
super
a lot of
quick
people.
way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a super quick way to get super lean because, and I have a couple caveats and I have a very big wisdom kind of wisdom drop for everyone that wants to try this. It's very important when you do a dry fast to exercise. And a lot of people are maybe not going to see how that's even possible, but there's a strategy here. It would be the same with IF, right? When you have this elevated HGH, it's sometimes recommended that first thing in the morning while you have the energy, go do your resistance training. Like your fucking HGH is super elevated already. You might as well take advantage of that. So there's not too many clinical studies that at least I've heard of where that helps with excess, well, let's just call it hypertrophy, right? I don't know if there's too many studies out there that actually prove what I just said. But we do know that HGH goes up significantly when you get into like the 18 to 20 hour fasting
Definitely.
phase, right? We know that. What I said a moment ago is I don't know if there's too much evidence behind some excessive percentage increase in hypertrophy due to exercising at the 20-hour mark of a fast. There probably is some scientific literature out there. I just don't know what it is because I've kind of separated myself from a lot of that sciencey stuff. But if anyone knows, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. But the strategy here is you could do the same thing with a dry fast. You can do your resistance training really early when you wake up when you have the energy. And the purpose of this is because not necessarily fasting is muscle sparing. It isn't. But if you're looking at it like an insurance policy from catabolism, just go ahead and do it anyways, right? There's always like that insurance policy thing for the guys out there that are especially into their physiques, that are very focused on hypertrophy, that really don't want to lose this precious skeletal muscular tissue that they put on their frame. You know how those people get. So the people that are drinking fucking protein shakes the moment they leave the gym, like if you're one of those people and you're really cautious, like you think this muscle is just going to wither away, then fine. Do 20 push-ups when you wake up in the morning every day of your dry fast. Do some jumping jacks, do some jump rope, move the body, right? Because if you don't move it, you lose it. We all know that. But if you're somebody who's doing 4 to 5 days in the gym already and you're already kind of sequencing out your workouts and counting how many reps and sets you're doing, like if you're serious about it, then you don't have to worry about this. Now, what that means though is when you do dry fast, you're pushing out so much waste material. You're losing so much water weight. You're losing all of your water weight, just like what would happen to people on like the early stages of going into ketosis. But you also have the benefit of you're dropping so much body fat because there's nothing going on for your body to burn besides body fat, right? That's the big purpose of doing the ketogenic diet, right? You're starting to give your body fats primarily and no carbohydrates so that it prefers to actually burn fat as opposed to, right? We all know this. Anyone who knows anything about the ketogenic diet, which I do not recommend, and I do not think there's a benefit to that at all, besides doing it momentarily, dropping a lot of body water, like you lose a lot of water weight, but it's not sustainable, right? Long-term fasting is also not sustainable. Maybe doing OMAD, what you do, that for most people is not sustainable, but for you, you found it to work for you. If it works for you, then do it. And I think that that's why I like doing the dry fasts because I don't want to do a 3 day water fast or a 4 day water fast when I could get the same results in a day and a half on a dry fast. I could speed it up. I could give my kidneys a break, which is fucking super helpful. I could drop this toxicity quickly from the body in that excess bloat, that excess water that's holding on with all the glycogen and all the extra stuff that you don't want to always have on you, right? Because all of that leaves opportunity for more growth of bacteria and parasites and shit that you don't want in your gut. And any doctor that you've connected with has probably touched on some of these things. The gut microbiota, the pros for your gut microbiota from a dry fast, absolutely incredible. You're getting into a whole other part of the conversation too. The water fast, I don't really know if there's too much benefit from that perspective. There could be some, but again, it's the kidneys that are getting burdened by all this liquid that it has to process. So, yeah, I mean, I could talk all day about the
Good.
dry fasting stuff. I really love it. It changed a lot of the ways that I look at the body because I think the number one thing that it's helped me with is that I know I'm not going to die. Like I know that I could live through it. I also know
Mm.
that if shit hits the fan and fucking chaos goes down in society, I can go 3 days without eating or drinking. And everyone else is going to be killing each other over finding a bottle of Gatorade. And I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to know how to preserve my energy to use it effectively. And if there's one big takeaway from fasting, it could be that right there, right? Not being so food dependent.
Mm. Dude, this is such a fascinating conversation, man. This is really, I like where you're going with this, and where you, not only where you're going, but what you've already done and how much experience you've had with this. So basically you've got this dry fasting that you're doing for up to 3 days, and the benefit you're getting from it is the kidney's taking a break, and you're basically like, where does your mind go with this fasting? I mean, are you just doing regular, your normal routine for work, or are you, how is it any, like, okay, let's just talk about your one you got coming up. What,
Mhm.
like, tell me what's going to go into that. Like, what do you have
Okay.
planned for that? Yeah.
So it's really exciting. I just got my guitar back. So I have a lot of music I got to catch up on. I'm a musician first and foremost. That's like my number one passion. So I'm really excited to get back into writing some songs. But I do work a lot on this business. I don't have any employees. I run it 100% alone. It has a lot of moving parts. If anyone checks out the channel, you'll see that I'm pretty consistent with what I do. Actually, after this interview, I'm going to do like a 2 hour live stream probably over on my channel. So I try to think about that when I'm preparing for my fasts. But I have a very esoteric reason for why I'm fasting coming up. If you want me to get into it, I
I would,
can.
yeah, please.
It has to do with astrology, and this upcoming full moon is going to be in my sun sign. So I'm a Pisces, and the moon will be going through Pisces during the time frame that I'm planning for my fast, and it'll also be a full moon. And also right now Mercury station retrograde, which does influence a lot of the energies. And I've been noticing for myself, I've been having so many issues lately, like little mishaps. Like today, we wanted to connect at 2. I was really looking forward to that. I was having horrible internet issues all morning. I almost missed a flight that I had to take a couple days ago. Like I was literally boarding it like within 2 minutes of it taking off. There was just so much shit going wrong, you know? But I don't take it as it going wrong anymore. As a spiritual being, I'm starting to realize like it's all opportunity and it's all a lesson and it's all something for me to grow more. Like I could mine consciousness out of the things that seem like failures or the things that seem like mishaps. And I'm really trying to go about life that way. But this fast that's coming up, it is for a very esoteric purpose. And the reasoning for the timing of it is because when the moon is moving through your sun sign, you have this thing that's going on in the body, which is where we get the term Christ from.
Chrism,
Sure. So this Christos,
Christos.
where this word originates from, Christos is a sacred oil.
Mm.
And this sacred oil is the cerebral spinal fluid. And it
Oh,
actually drips from the thalamus down the pituitary. It goes down into your spinal column. And as it travels down your spine, it ends in your sacrum. And this is where we get the word sacred from, or secretion, or secret. This is the origin of the etymology of that word. So this is the secret we all have within us, and it's happening during this time every single month for each of you. So if you're a Leo, when the moon is passing through Leo, that's when you could practice this. It's the 2.5 days. We could also just call it the 3 days of darkness. And we've heard about this 3 days of darkness before with the Jesus Christ story. So I'm not trying to derail people's religious beliefs. That's not the point here. But if you're seeking truth, this is the origin of all of this stuff. All of religion is teaching you about you, not about some other person, not about something outside of you. It's teaching you about you. And this is probably the most important part of my work because I try to connect the dots for people of why the world is the way that it is. Why is everything operating the way that it does? Why does the New World Order do certain things on certain dates? Why do they have market crashes or bull runs? Or why did they do C19 on March 11, 2020? Why did they crash the, this is getting deeper into the machinations of our reality. So, needless to say, this 3 days of darkness process, or this crucifixion, this phoenix rising from the ashes, all of this comes back to this exact thing that I'm talking about right now. So I am timing my fast for that moment because the way that it goes is after the cerebral spinal fluid drips from the thalamus down the spinal column. By the way, you have 33 vertebrae. That's 33 years of Jesus, 3 days of darkness, resurrected. After the resurrection, what happens is this fluid, after it goes to your sacrum, it now rises back up to your solar plexus. This is the crown of thorns, or the halo around the angels. Then after it goes there, you have a choice to make, and this comes down to the way that you treat yourself. If you're drinking alcohol, if you're another side to this is if you're ejaculating, so if you're having sex and you're releasing, this or eating makes it impossible for this cerebral spinal fluid to go back up into the thalamus, or for the phoenix to rise. Okay. And this is where we get the idea of a gift on Christmas or getting coal. Because if you go the opposite way, which is the way we all go most of the time, where we're eating, we're drinking, where everyone's masturbating now because of porn addiction, you never get to have this experience. And this is where the concept of enlightenment actually stems from. So the phoenix is the flame, it rises. That's the enlightenment. Enlightenment. So ment is mente, is mentis. It means mind, the light in your mind, the light of the mind. You notice how all this esoteric stuff, they're always holding up a torch. At the Olympics, they hold up a torch, right? You
Yeah.
see Columbia, or you see the Statue of Liberty, or Libertas,
Yeah.
or all of them, they hold
Why,
up the torch.
why do they hold that torch? They always do that.
It's
That-
symbolic of Lucifer. It's the light bearer. So Lucifer is not the devil. This literally means in Latin, light bringer, the bearer of light. This is why religion is really, really interesting, because it's all double speak, and it all gets you to demonize the thing that actually you're probably worshiping. Nobody knows this, but when you're learning about religion, whether it be you're studying Muslim or Judaism or Christianity, it's all spoken in parable. It's all written by people that are very, very esoterically sophisticated. Like, they're not just laymen. They're very, very intelligent. And they're writing it out in a way where it's in code. It's encoded. And I'm a decoder. So it's up to me to decode all of this stuff so it actually has a meaning. You notice how when we want to know what a word means, we get the definition. What does it mean when you're deaf? It means you can't hear. What do they call when you get a loan? They call it debt. It's death. They're literally coding our language with these words on purpose. So etymology is super important. All of this stuff that we're talking about is crucial, because once you know what all these things mean, now you know what's going on in the scripture, instead of you just being told it by a pastor who has no idea what the hell he's talking about. So there's a lot of depth to this, but I'm timing out my fast because it aligns with this astrological alignment. And I feel like I also need it. I've been traveling a little bit lately, and I've been definitely eating out a little bit more than usual. And it's hard to access gyms sometimes when you're traveling. So it's another way for me to just have a reset. And I think that's the last thing to say about the fasts is use them like a tool, right? When you start to feel a little sniffle, a little bit like, sluggish, maybe you ate some crazy meal of fried, French fries and a burger, and you went out with the boys and drank a bunch of beer. That's like a time to like go, okay, maybe I need a fast. Like, give your body a moment to push out all that crap, right? And that's another part of the strategy. I don't just do fasting for my ego. And that's kind of what got me away from the health community, actually. And maybe I will bounce this back to you, because I want to know some of your thoughts, being in this for a long time. Like, a big thing that made me allergic to a lot of the health and wellness community is everything was such an ego trip. It was like the fasting thing was all about the numbers. People were like, I fasted for 20 hours or I fasted for 21 hours. It's like, who gives a fuck how long you fasted? It's about how do you feel? How do you feel? We're like moving away from feelings and we're all about numbers now. And it's bizarre to me. How's your experience been with that? Like, have you had a healthy relationship with the fasting window and all the stuff around it, or do you see yourself pretty much still kind of like attached to it? And there's nothing wrong with being attached. I just want to know.
Well, initially, that's how I got started, was for sure tracking the numbers and setting little goals as a beginner. Yeah, starting like, okay, I'm going to hit the numbers of X, let's say 14 hours, 16 hours, 18
Yeah, and
hours
there's
a
nothing
day.
wrong with that. It's a great starting point. It's
It's
a
a
great
great
starting
starting point.
point.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
that's
some people start like kind of conditioning themselves where
obsessing
they're like,
over it.
yeah, they're like looking at the clock and they're like, is it 5 p.m. yet? Oh, no, okay. And I gotta wait. And it's like, I don't know if your body gives a shit about the clock. It really doesn't. Your hormones are acting up every single day. You're a male, you have a 24-hour hormonal cycle. A woman has a 28-day hormonal cycle. This cycle is quite different. So, like, if a woman is hearing that she should do a 16-hour fasting window, but if it's her like she's ovulating, for instance, maybe that's not the best advice. I don't know, man. I just think there's a lot more to it, and it's become so about the numbers, and that harms us more than it helps us most of the time, because humans start to let that get the best of them, and then they drift away from the feelings they get from it. It becomes more about the outcome and less about the process. And if you're trying to get lean, you're trying to get healthy, you're trying to get rich, you're trying to get accomplished in any way, get as far away from the outcome in your mind as humanly possible and just become processed focused. When you're in the process, man, you're in flow state. When you're in the outcome, you're never here. You're never present. You're always somewhere else. So you're waking up at 10 a.m. thinking about 5 p.m. It's gonna make from 10 to 5 fucking miserable, or you're not gonna get shit done because you're just thinking about what you're gonna cook for at 4 p.m. to eat at 5. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way, but a lot of people don't have the consciousness to have a healthy relationship with what I just said. It's tough, especially right now with this social media age. When we got into fasting and this kind of stuff, man, there was no TikTok, there was no IG influencers, none of that shit existed. I mean, it was very hard to even find information about dry fasting.
Yeah.
Barely anyone out there had any content on it. So I mean, like we're in an information renaissance, simultaneously a value renaissance, and people don't really know what truth is anymore. And when you're in this moment, which we're all in, it's going to be tough to feel balanced when your whole life is about some arbitrary number in the future. So many people that come to me, they're like, I want to become a millionaire. I'm like, why? Why do you want to become a millionaire? What the fuck does that even mean? When you become a millionaire in 5 years, it won't even matter about millions anymore. You'll need to have billions by then. Look at hyperinflation. So I know that could really discourage people, but it's like, get that shit out of your head. Be here. That's where all the creation happens. Be here. Like,
In the
then
process.
you'll just be in tune with whatever dollar amount you're ready for. You know how many people want to be millionaires, but they're not ready to be millionaires. If I just walked up to somebody and gave them a million and come back next week, I bet you they blow all that fucking money. I bet if you gave me $1 million, you give me a week, and I will have $2 million because I know how to invest it. I know how to finesse it. I know how to roll it over into a cash flow system. I know how to trade it. I know how to do so many things with it. I know how to produce. I know how to I know how to get around the taxes. Okay? So you can't just have a million and expect your life's going to change, because a lot of the time you're not ready for that million. So when you get out of that outcome and you become present, you start to see that you're in alignment with it exactly the level you need to be at for this moment. And then you'll reach a plateau and then you got to break through. It's no different than when you're trying to lose that final 5 pounds. You got to adjust and refine, and then you'll break through. It's the same thing with wealth. It's the same thing with your relationships. It's the same thing with everything. Life is
So,
never about that outcome. It's always about the process.
Waters, take me back to this. Take me back for a minute to this 3-day fasting and this moment here that you talked about where the fluid is rising up the spine, or rising up the spine, the chrism. How is that? How does that? Okay, have you experienced that? And is that what you're shooting for on this 3-day fast, like that type of a moment? Like what?
No, I'm not actually, but the reason I'm doing it, the main reason I'm doing it is because I'm in a very beautiful natural place right now that's very secluded and I'm just like it's like me and Mother Nature. Like I woke up this morning and there was like deers rolling by. And what I feel when I do an extended dry fast is this peaceful flow state where I'm just like ultra clear. I have this really insane clarity. Like I said, I got my guitar with me, so I'm looking to make some music. But then I'm also in the process of making a some course material that I'm working on for this decoding mastermind that I've already launched. I have a new masterclass I'm adding to it called the Trinity Masterclass. I have some material I want to add to that, and I love the creative essence that I get into on these fasts. Like I'm just unstoppable. So I love the clarity. For me, it's something that's not explainable. Although I am timing it the way that I said, and the let's just call that bonus. Like that's bonus points, the fact that it's timed this way. But it also was in alignment with my travel plans. When you do a 3-day dry fast, guys, you can't just go from eating, French fries and whiskey and then go into a dry fast. You really need a prep for it. So I needed these days to prep anyways. And it just kind of works. And the timing of it, it's pretty dialed in. But the whole purpose is really clarity for artistic projects that I'm planning on knocking out over this week. And also, like I said a little bit earlier, did a little bit of traveling, feeling a little heavier than usual. I want to clear out some of that toxic, like just clear that out. It's like an oil change for the car is a great way to explain it. Like my 3,000 miles are up. It's time for an oil change. And it's my favorite type of oil change. It's my favorite way to do it with a dry fast. So um
How are
the
you prepping for it?
yeah, so the prep is I like to tell people that however many days you dry fast is the amount of days you should prep. So if I'm doing a 3-day dry fast, I want to do 3 days of prep. So the prep really kind of starts tomorrow. And the way that I would prep is no cooked food. So no cooked food for the prep, no alcohol for the prep, no processed food for the prep. So this goes into stuff like if you're somebody who's vegan, for instance, I wouldn't even do like coconut yogurt or something. I wouldn't do any vegan cheese, no oat milk, none of that. Even though oat milk you can make at home with two ingredients, oats and water, and you could get raw oats somewhere. So I would just try to stay away from anything that's like heavy like that, like no grains, no seeds, even though those things do have a lot of amazing benefits. Um, I'm starting with all the things I'm abstaining from. And really what I go with is fruit. So I'm a big fan of mono fruit meals for preparation because although that's the most hardcore and the hardest for most people, it's what gets the best results and it's what gets you the most hydrated before you go into the fast. So of course you're going into a dry fast, meaning you're not drinking any water during this fast. So you really want to pack the body with nutrients. You really want to pack the body with as much hydration as humanly possible. So watermelon is incredible. Cucumber is amazing. You could do cucumber juice if you're somebody who doesn't like to eat cucumber, for instance. Tomatoes are also amazing in terms of its hydrative value. Um, Grapes are amazing. Grapes are mostly just liquid. Any melons, really, cantaloupes, berries are great too. Berries are packed with antioxidants. Um, and grapefruit, citrus is pretty much all the fruits. If you're somebody who lives in the tropical area and you have access to coconuts off the tree, then invest in some coconuts. Maybe don't go with too much packaged coconut water. That might not be the best. It's pretty lifeless when it's sitting there in a bottle. But yeah, so to summarize and give people the most basic outline, although it might not be the easiest for people, it would just be 3 days of only eating fruit. Eating is better than juicing because you get some fiber in, and you do want to. have some feeling of like mastication, and like you want to like not be so like how do I say this? Doing 3 days of juicing before you do 3 days of dry fast is super hardcore. Like most people go don't want to go 6 days without chewing on something. Even that is like an addiction we have. You know what I mean? We've heard about this all the time with people who have like a smoking addiction. Like a lot of the time, it's not even the inhaling, it's like the touching the cigarette to the lips. So we get so used to chewing. And if you take that away from people, it might take away the experience and it might make it a little bit tough for them. So I know I'm giving you guys like a ton of value right now, a lot of little tips and tricks. But yeah, I would say 3 days of fruit is my go-to. And then 3 days of fasting, dry, and then 3 days of fruit after that. So the prep and the breaking of the fast is identical to the amount of time of the fast. And what you're realizing now is this is actually a 9-day fast.
Hmm.
Not a true fast, but I mean, fuck, if you're eating only fruit for 6 days and then you're putting 3 days of nothing in the middle, just imagine what this is doing to the gut, like how much of a reset this is. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. Like people do these types of fasts and they can smell so much better. They can see better. They're squinting less when they look at the screen or when they're looking at a sign, or it just sharpens up so many things, and it really sharpens up your sensitivity to stimuli
Fascinating.
too.
Yeah. So you mentioned a master decoding class that you're putting on or you're putting together. So how can people find more about what you're up to and this material?
Yeah, so just check out watersabove.com. I have a if you're interested in the stuff I've been talking about today, the course that's the most covers the most of that stuff is called the Expansion Mastermind. That's all about health and wellness mindset. Talks a lot about attention and distractions and how to get like more dialed in with organization of your time. And we have a lot of that going on right now. Lots of distractions, lots of stuff stealing your attention. Getting a lot into like the mentality and health wellness. Also, the decoding mastermind that you just talked about is really for people who are interested in decoding, for people that want to learn more about everything I just said with the Bible, for instance, and with etymology and with astrology. Like, a lot of people that know about astrology don't know anything about mythology, but it's the mythology that birthed the astrology. So that's a whole other thing. If you want to know more about astrology, you're somebody who doesn't really get it. Well, I bet you when you take this course, you're now going to finally get it because you'll know the ingredients that make up the meal called astrology, right? Like when you make a salad, you have like maybe 10 ingredients in it. Well, that's probably the issue with most people and why they're having trouble with understanding astrology is because it has 12 core ingredients, 13 to 14 if you want to get a little more fancy, and you don't know really what those ingredients are. Where do they stem from? What are the stories that make this stuff up? And why does it matter? And why is Pisces ruled by Neptune? Like, why is this way? Well, there's a mythological story going on. And I break down all the symbolism, I break down all the words behind it, I break down all of the ideas that we have for why this is the age of Pisces moving into the age of Aquarius. So many people are shouting out that we're in the age of Aquarius, but like they don't really know the meaning and the symbolism and the deep concepts behind what that even symbolizes. So yeah, it's really like my way of answering all the questions that most people have when they're scratching their head going, what the hell does all this stuff mean? That was my mission with the Decoding Mastermind. It's not so much about teaching you astrology, how to read the astrology charts. It's about getting you to actually understand the system that makes up all of that. I hope that makes sense.
Dude, totally. I mean, super deep. So it sounds like you're really taking things to the next level way of your knowledge and your experience here. I mean, to another level of that I've actually never seen before. So hats off to you, man. I really, I want to. You're leaving me on the edge of my chair. Like I really want to know more. I'm challenged.
Yeah, I have a little
To
bit. Yeah, I have some more time if you're free. We could get
yeah. I
get to
mean,
some more stuff if you want.
I mean, yeah. If you want to take up like another 10 minutes, that'd be great. If you're good for that. I mean,
Yeah,
I could totally.
I have about 15 more minutes.
Yeah, perfect. So all right, let's do it then. So Well, first of all, you mentioned about starting this fast. I mean, if I wanted to take that challenge, what would I have to do to start on that challenge? I mean, I would do that. You told me that one, if I were to do a 1 day fast on the same day that you did, I'd start with a 1 day dry fast. Then I would do the fruit, and then just take the challenge on what day is it happening?
So we're going for the 20th, this Tuesday. So what would be best is on Monday. On Monday, I would like you to try your best to eat raw. You do this one meal thing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what I would do if you can is get like, this might be hardcore for you, but like eat eat like 800 calories worth of like watermelon. Like if you could get like 1,000 calories of watermelon, that would be amazing. If you just want to be a badass and do 100% watermelon, then you could eat as much watermelon as you want. Like just eat until you can't eat. Buy the biggest watermelon that you could find. Just eat the whole thing if you want. And then you can go into your dry fast without a worry. You will feel awesome. You'll probably be peeing a lot, obviously, because you just put a lot of liquid into your system, but you'll be setting yourself up for that 24-hour dry fast without any worry at all. Like your insurance policy is perfect.
That's that sounds like a plan, dude. I'm up for the challenge. I mean, get some watermelon on Monday and chow it down. Now I've been on carnivore diet for a year, so I have not had one bite of fruit, mind you, in one
Holy
year.
shit.
I was hardcore vegetarian. Okay. So I went from when I was doing, when you saw my viral video at that time, I was doing, macro, I'd measure all my food up, but I'd eat mostly like balanced meals. To then I had great success. And I was like, I started going into vegan and then hardcore vegetarian, growing all my own food, raw food diet. And then I started withering away, losing too much muscle. Then I went carnivore a year ago. So I went from vegetarian straight raw food to carnivore 1 year, and I have not had one bite of fruit, not one plant in my diet for 1 year. So
Wow.
this could be a major challenge to do it. But hey, I'm up for it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it'll be quite interesting. Well, how has this you said 1 year of doing carnivore. What made you get into that?
Well, being a strict vegetarian, raw food, growing all my own food before that, that's where I came from. So I was dissatisfied with with my progress. I was training hard and I was not making any progress at all.
Hmm.
I needed a change. I was also in a mental funk at the time. Specifically, I actually, totally procrastinated on getting a passport renewal. I never did it. And I had a trip to London and I flaked out on my own appointment and missed it. And I caused myself to have to get a passport all the way in Seattle from San Francisco. They had no appointments for the next day, and I had to get this last minute trip to Seattle, and it screwed everything up in my whole week, right? And so I was so upset at myself for this stupid, basically for procrastinating and not getting it done, that I just like I called my friend and I'm literally on the phone. I'm driving up to Seattle, a 12-hour drive. I couldn't get a flight. It was all just, anyways. I called my friend. He's like, "Why don't you just do carnivore and try it out?" I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start with a fast. So I did a 2 day fast and I came back in. I started carnivore, took the challenge. I watched a Jordan Peterson interview with Joe Rogan at that time. And I said, I got to change something. So that's literally all it was. It's like I had to make a change. It wasn't because it was the best thing ever, but I had to make a change. I felt like. So yeah, maybe this is a type of reset with what you're with this little dry fasting period. Yeah, sometimes that's what we need.
Could be, man. Could be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope great success on this. I think it's going to be an interesting thing for you to experience for sure.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the way it changes the body. Like I guess your mindset. You sound very balanced. I would say very even keel. Not hearing like excitement, low, up, down. And so in a good way, because especially with your business, it's important to be on that even keel with all the
Mm,
stress. So it seems like
yeah.
it's helping to keep your mood.
And I'm from
Uh,
New York, man. Like we're different out there. So like I grew up with like really excited people, like people that are just dramatic, like drama queens, people that just get into fights for no reason. So it's pretty wild the environment I grew up in and like how yeah, so it's interesting because I'm plant-based and when I went plant-based, the calmness really kicked in. Like But then the fasting, that really changed a lot of things. And then when I started to learn about how like the matrix really works, that added another layer to the calmness. And it kind of like has all crossed paths. And I'm at this point right now where I guess I just really feel protected. Like I feel safe. And I believe that, a big part of my core philosophy is that and I'm trying not to be judgmental with what I'm saying. I'm saying it out of just observation. It seems that the human experience right now is very nervous. They're very anxious. They're like squirrels, like just their head is on a swivel,
Hmm.
and nobody can stand still for just a second anymore. Like anytime there's a moment where they're not engaging, they go to the phone. Like we're at this really interesting point right now, right? And that nervousness is not being dealt with. That kind of avoiding, the avoiding of exploring the mind, if you will. And even a lot of the meditation stuff, it's kind of wrapped in Eastern spirit. A lot of it is also avoiding. And my methodology is to just full on face it. Whatever trauma that's going on, whatever things that happened in your past, whatever shitty things that occurred, let's deal with it like today instead of like just storing it, right? So I have a very I guess what some people would say like brave outlook, like a brave philosophy on a lot of things. And that knowing that it's all good, like that knowing that there's no reason to actually be nervous and that I'm burning all these excessive calories in that false nervousness and that false worry. I can preserve those calories and put them towards my purpose. Like my purpose and your purpose is not to be worried about what happens with the next World War III or whether what Israel's going to. No, that's not of your concern right now. Like we allow that to become our problem. And I understand that it is a problem, but it's not for you unless you want to make it. And the New World Order knows that they can program fear into you through optics, especially a lot easier today because of social media. You can go on social media today and you could find the most devastating, horrifying clips of what's going on in some pocket of the universe. And if you want to sit around and consume that all day, then be my guest. But what's really happening here is it increases this nervousness, it increases this worry, and those calories are going to that when they could be going elsewhere. And I look at everything in life as energy. Like, where do you put your energy? So I made a kind of quantum shift maybe 5 to 7 years ago, where I said, I'm not going to let the New World Order or whatever's going on, I'm not going to let the distraction du jour get the best of me. I'm going to start putting 110% of my energy into what it is that excites me and how I could be useful to the world. Like, I'm a big proponent for that. When I wake up in the morning, I ask myself, how can I be useful today? I it's not about thinking about me or not thinking about me. It's just I've skipped all of that and I've went to how can I be useful today? And that's what makes me feel purpose. Whenever I can interact in some way, shape, or form and be that vessel or be that the open ear or whatever, or be
Yeah,
the
by
words of
asking
wisdom.
yourself that question, how can you be useful? How can I add value? It seems to change the mindset. Like you're
Mm,
going at it like to a meeting or you're going at it to work. Like, how can I actually add value? How can I be useful to the situation? All of a sudden it becomes exciting, doesn't it?
yeah. And it takes away the transaction of it all. Like I know so many people where they wake up and the first thing they think about is, how am I going to make money today?
Yeah.
Or like how am I going to do this today or how, like and it's always like this how followed by something that is very shallow that doesn't really have much utility and it's mostly them being used as opposed to them using something. And for me, I want to use my skills, I want to use my talents, I want to use my gifts to serve my highest purpose. And the only way you could really serve your highest purpose is if you're being useful to something outside of you. And I'm not trying to say that you need to be like a rug that everyone steps on. That's the complete opposite. Don't take shit from anyone in this process. If anything, when you feel the way that I do about life, you see yourself saying no a lot more than you used to say yes. Like it's super funny. I get a lot of interview requests and a lot of people reaching out and they want to chat. And sometimes it has like something transactional behind it, or it has something where they're like, you can't talk about what you want to talk about.
Hmm.
Because I heard you say this one time. And I don't even respond because I'm like, if you're not going to give me my platform to speak my truth, then you're not my people. And I already knew about you. Shout out from Matt, right? It was all just like it all worked out, and it was like, yeah, let's go tomorrow. Let's do it.
That was
Like
cool.
I know what aligns with my purpose, and I know what doesn't. Right? I've had people like reach out to me, and they'll offer like 50 grand, 70 grand for some sponsorship offer, and I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like I have no desire to get caught up in your purpose. I'm here to do my purpose, but still it's based in the essence of how can I be useful today? You see? It's like
Definitely.
there's a trick to the system here, and everything's about hacking, right? People talk about hacking the subconscious. There's a way to hack your diet protocol, there's a way to hack your exercise protocol, there's a way to hack your mindset. I just found out the recipe that allows me to kind of like avoid those pitfalls or avoid those dark kind of moments. We all get into them. We've all been depressed. We've all been feeling like defeated. We've all had a loss. I've just learned that those are and this comes full circle to something we talked about earlier. Like now, whenever I experience those moments where I trip and stumble, I'm like, excited to get back up now. I'm like, how quick can I get back up and start running again? And it fucking excites me now to make mistakes. And I've said this many times. It's like one of my favorite things to share is that all my mistakes were my greatest choices.
All my
Because by
mistakes, greatest choices.
because calling it a choice means I'm accountable. It means I'm taking it like I did it. Like it's on me. But still, it was my greatest choice because it allowed for me to improve. It allowed for me to see my weaknesses. It allowed for me to see where I have room to grow. It's all just revealing something to me.
Hmm.
It's like being naked. You can't hide. And I think that's more what I want to embrace instead of what I shared earlier, which is the human condition avoiding, purely in avoidance mode, not wanting to take account personal, responsibility at all, not wanting to be held accountable for anything, not caring to be useful in any capacity. And that's a very dangerous way to operate. And it's the majority at this time. So if anyone's listening to this right now and you're resonating, but sometimes you're discouraged by the human experience, like the way that people are behaving, just remind yourself that it's on you. Like, how can I be useful today? Even though the world is doing what it's doing, even though everything's going on the way that it's going on, like you need to realize that you can only do what you can do. You can't adjust the state of reality for everyone right now. You can't change these courses of events for the way everyone else is going to handle them, but you could alter yours. It's really all that matters.
And you mentioned your waters that earlier in some of your success. You said that even if like a person comes, you say, I want to make $1 million, I want to be a millionaire. And then you said, well, you're probably not even, you may not even be ready to be a millionaire yet. And then you mentioned that, well, in your case, you're structured to receive that. You'd know what to do with it. You'd strategize it. And you mentioned like strategies and tax strategies. I mean, would you be willing to discuss that at a future date where your mind's going with a lot of the like, let's say, strategical maneuvers in the way of this asset protection or planning for success? I'm
Yeah,
sure you
of
have.
course. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I mean, we could probably dedicate a whole nother one to that. Like, I'm really savvy now in a lot of this stuff. I'm not like one of those people that's full blown like getting into common law and trying to avoid the system. I know a lot of people are going that route right now where they're trying to like even people that are like excommunicating, giving up their US citizenship, moving to Puerto Rico, like they're getting into all these strategies. Like I'm not about that. I have a lot of little tips and tricks for people with tax strategy for sure. I'm not the authority on the matter, but there's some things that I've done that have been really, really powerful in keeping the money that I earn, because it's one thing to learn how to make money, it's another thing to keep it. And most people learn how to make a lot and then they give it all back to the IRS or they give it all back to the gambling casino, even in crypto, even in investing. A lot of people, they have this like, what is it called? Hot hand syndrome, where like they win three trades and then they go back to zero on the fourth because
Hmm.
they just don't have They don't have the strategy in place. Like, and it really is all about that. And one thing to clear up, and you were saying the right thing, but I just want to be clear. When I was talking about somebody who asks me or says to me their desire to be a millionaire, what I really respond back with is why. And when I ask why, people are like silent. It's like they don't even know why. And I'm trying to get them to see like how silly it even is. Like, because if you said, I want to be a millionaire, and then I nodded my head and agreed with you and was like, Amen, brother, you're like, I'm giving you the go ahead to think that that's a good thing. Like, I want people to know that being a millionaire is not really anything. It's just you have $1 million in your bank account. Congratulations. You could be a millionaire who's single, who can't talk to women, and you hate your, all of your relationships that you're in. You might have a child that you don't even get to see because they can't stand. You got to fix so many other things in your life. The millionaire doesn't undo all the shitty things that are going on. You see what I mean? I just want people to realize that that's not the value. It's just dollars. It's energy, guys. Like, you will be ready for the energy you're ready to receive when you're ready. And then when you're at that state of consciousness, you're not even concerned with your bank account number. It's unimportant because a magician doesn't need a magic wand to perform magic. The magician doesn't need a full moon to perform the magic. The magician could instantly access their manifestation and make it happen as it needs to happen because they know that it will happen. There's no doubt. There's no even desire. It just is, right? Like
It just is.
you know right now that your heart's beating, right? You don't waste any time thinking about that. You just know that it's happening. Well, I'll tell you what, people that have $10 million, the way that they look at $1 million is the same way you look at the way your heart's beating right now.
It just
I,
is.
I bet you somebody with $500 is thinking about it would be like paying attention to every heartbeat you had, sitting there wanting to be a millionaire. You'll get fucking nothing done, guys. You don't sit there counting your pulse all day. You don't go, okay, it's beating now. Now it's beating. Now it's beating. Now it's beating. The phone's, you have work in 10 minutes. You're like, but I can't do that because I have to pay attention to my heart rate. You don't do that. Okay. So you see the method to what I'm saying here? Like people that are at abundance level, they look at these numbers as just numbers. They have no actual value to them. It's pretty wild, man. Like I've spoken to some very, very wealthy people, and it's mind-blowing the relationship they have with money and how it adjusts over time. You know what I mean? We see this with people who are like playboys, like pickup artists. Like they have such a skill at just going out in public and talking to people. It's it's like their heart's beating. They don't it's not a big deal to talk to a woman randomly. They're good at getting denied. They're just like I am when I'm getting denied. I say the same thing. I'm like, great, I now have opportunity here. I
Hmm.
don't take it as a loss. So, whatever you're in the mastery of, whether that be relationships, whether that be in money, whether that be in health, whatever, for you, the final example, to go 24 hours without eat or to do your OMAD diet, that's like a walk in the park. You've been doing it for a decade. It's nothing, bro. It's like it's just another day in the matrix. But for people that have never done this before, that are eating 6 meals a day because they've been brainwashed into thinking it's good for their metabolism or whatever, you feel me? It's like they feel like they can't even do that or they'll die if they were to do what you did. The same way some people react when they hear me talk about a dry fast. You see, it's just different levels and you get more comfortable with it as you climb the ladder, right? So there's nothing good or bad about this. I'm not trying to say that we're the king of whatever it is that we're passionate about. It's just to reveal to you that when somebody comes to me and they tell me that they want to be a millionaire, I try to help them see that that's not really the target. That's maybe a very dangerous target, actually.
Sounds like you're helping them to understand really what their why is. What is it? What is it they really want? And
That's
by
powerful,
craft
man.
by crafting that, now they can go out and seek that, and then the result will be the $1 million potentially. You
Yeah.
know,
Like
as through
I
the
don't know the
process.
magic behind it. Yeah, I don't really know the magic behind it, but I remember in myself when I used to like sit around obsessing about this stuff, it made the ceiling noticeable. So like I wanted to remove the ceiling as my new strategy. Like you do, and first of all, nothing's impossible. It's only impossible if you believe it's impossible. So when you remove the impossible, you remove the ceiling. And when you remove the ceiling, you now have a lot of room, an infinite amount of room. I think this has been described as a stretch goal. Some people like those, like, because if somebody was like, I want to be a millionaire, and I said, okay, we're going to make 10 then. Let's go for 10 million. And they're like, what the fuck? I only have $1,000 to my name. How am I want a million. Why should I want 10? And what we do is it's like a psychological reprogramming where it's like, we're going 10x your target. And what happens is maybe you only make it to 100K. But what's hilarious is if you only looked at a million, you might only make it to like 10K. It's when you put that crazy what is it called when you're delusional. Like I think
Delusion.
Kanye West talks a lot about this, and I really resonate with him on it. And he's one of our greatest modern examples of doing shit that someone like him should have never been able to accomplish, right? Like if anyone denies that, it's just you're not seeing the results. But needless to say, he's more like me, where we've been able to accomplish based off of people telling us we can't accomplish something. That's a like an ego thing, right? Somebody says, "Oh, you can't do that," and I say, "Fuck you," and I do it, and I do it better actually than if I didn't have that resistance. That's just my code. I'm more like a alpha wolf in that way, Not everyone has that. So it's the same thing with Kanye. He talks about how like it's not that he even wanted to wear the MAGA hat. It's that because people said he shouldn't or he couldn't. And then he didn't even vote for Trump. He was just like, I just want to wear the hat to show you that I could do whatever the fuck I want. And I will show you that I could do whatever I want. And you think that's going to end my career. And I'll show you that it won't. I'll become more famous. I'll become more rich. And it's like that energy, man, that like dragon energy, if more people had that shit, like this world would be totally different than it is today. We're working with a world that has like zero confidence. And getting back to the delusion thing, it's like Kanye is an alchemist of delusion. He knows how to use it as a tool, whilst most people, it's a weapon, right? They can't afford to be delusional because it's like that that they don't know how to work with that energy, right? But he does. And I want to teach people like instead of going the stretch goal route and going for the 10 million, what I tell them is, why do you even want a million? I put the question back at them. So I'm trying to be even more spiritual about it. You understand? I don't even care about the 10 million or the million. I don't even care about any of that stuff. It's like the value that you believe in. I want to shatter that belief because when we shatter that completely, you become whole again. But when
That's how
I
change happens.
Exactly. But if you're chasing the million, then you know what your identity becomes? You're a millionaire now. Yay. That's all you have. You're going to be one of these guys that has like a fucking Lamborghini, and that's the only thing that matters to you. You're more concerned in your material possessions than even the people in your life. And we see this happen to some of the greatest people. And perhaps Kanye's downfall is very much that. He's so materialistic that he got out of his spiritual purpose. There's no denying that. I mean, we got to be fair here. And I don't like to talk about people that I'm not directly speaking to, but I think I brought up some really powerful examples about the technology of delusion and the
Sure.
technology of manifestation and the technology of value and reprogramming what all those things mean for you uh, has a very transformational it has a very transformational effect on the individual.
Waters above. I mean, this has been like a freaking, download session. People are gonna have to go listen to this multiple times. Like you just freaking dropped so many nuggets on this show.
It was a pleasure, man. I'm really excited to connect. So
Serious
I would love
download.
to reconnect.
Yeah, I let's challenge is taken on the Monday where I go ahead and start with the eating raw on Monday,
Yeah,
watermelon.
bro. Yep.
Watermelon, and then straight into the dry fast on Tuesday for just one day. It's
Yeah.
not the end of the world. I'm not gonna die. And then I could go from there and see what the heck happens. And we could schedule again something after that. We'll do a challenge to do another show.
Yeah,
So
that'd be amazing.
sometime,
That'd be amazing.
dude. Any last words where people can find you and how they should look you up? Then please subscribe to your channel. And if you want to plug that?
Yeah, just check out Waters Above at YouTube. Check out a couple of my videos. I mean, it's not going to be a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. You're going to see a lot of technical analysis stuff, but I mean, I'm glad that we had the opportunity to talk about all that other, all of the things that I think are a lot more important, actually. So I'm very grateful for that because a lot of the time when people invite me on, it's just talking about crypto, it's just talking about the markets, and this actually means a lot more to me, talking about health and wellness and you know it doesn't matter if you're rich if like you can't climb a flight of stairs or you get out
Yeah.
of breath running around the block, like health is true wealth. So I'm really glad that we talked about this today. But yeah, just check out the YouTube channel, and then any other links will be in the description of those videos, and I appreciate and am grateful for all the support.
Yeah. Thank you, Waters Above. All right. This is Gavin. Go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, share the video, leave and be sure to subscribe to Waters Above as well. All right. We'll see you at the top.